Part 5. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 41. Master, why do you want to check the identity of the female doctor? I think it is not necessary. Seeing Xiao Jingzhao's dark face, Xiangyang swallowed the words that came to his lips. Xiang Song and Xiangyang didn't know what happened to Xiao Zuxuan, so as soon as their master returned to Qinghui courtyard, they were ordered to explore Miss Jiang's background. Especially when the master heard the female doctor's last name, a wave of emotion flashed across his eyes. When Zhang Shuyu returned to the medical clinic, she wrote a recruitment notice and posted it. The second day. As the first ray of morning light poured down from the sky, Su Huiren led Sujin and Sunan to the academy. Ajin, Nanan, after living in the academy, you can only come back once every half-month. You should take good care of yourselves. Zhang Shuyu took Sunan's hand and put a purse into his hand. Sister, my mother gave me and my brother 50 cents each. We have enough pens, ink, paper, and inkstones. There is nothing to spend money on. Sunan refused. Take it, study hard, and gain fame in the future. Sister O will also be happy for you and Ajin. Sunan wanted to refuse, but Zhang Shuyu turned back and glanced at the inner courtyard. Stop shouting, Sui Sui will chase her out again soon. Sui Sui learned that his uncles could only go home once every half-month, so he kept pestering Sujin and Nan Nan. Now Qiuju took him to watch Shui Sheng practice. Okay. Sister, please take care of yourself and tell Sushui and Shui Sheng that I will miss them. Sunan put the purse in his arms. He lowered his head. No one saw him, and his eyes were red. He wouldn't say how sad he would be if he couldn't see Yuxiu's lovely years every day. Sujin walked in front, opened the door, and saw Nangong Ziyu standing in front of the door with a bundle in hand. The morning light shone on his profile, like a layer of light, making his already handsome face even more dazzling. Seeing Sujin come out, he patted Sujin on the shoulder. Study hard, not everyone can get into Linjiang Academy. Sujin smiled back at him, thank you very much. I've already packed up the guest room in the front yard. Su Huiren looked at Nangong Ziyu with a warm smile on his face. Sunan also said hello to Nangong Ziyu, turned around and waved to Zhang Shuyu and her mother. Mom, sister, go into the house quickly, Sushui will be looking for you soon. Auntie, I came a little early, so I didn't disturb you, right? Nangong Ziyu asked with a smile. No need to disturb, have you had breakfast? And Su enthusiastically let Nangong Ziyu through the door. We ate at the inn. Don't be impatient, follow me to the guest room. Today you can help me in the hospital to see who is suitable, Zhang Shuyu said and walked forward. Seeing everything in the guest room, Nangong Ziyu threw the baggage in her hand on the bed. He said with a playful smile, Sujin is really good at arranging things. I can't live up to his wishes. I'll have to stay longer. Pull him down. You obviously like the unrestrained life and don't want to go back to Blackpool Valley and be restrained by your master. You know me, Miss Zhang. When I go back to Blackpool Valley, I am forced by my master to practice Kung Fu every day. Each of my brothers works harder than the other. With my little three-legged cat Kung Fu, when I fight with my brothers, I will only get beaten. After being exposed by Zhang Shuyu, Nangong Ziyu didn't care and even smiled to herself. Uncle Master should be teaching Shui Sheng Qigong in the garden at this time. I'll go over and see if junior brother has made any progress. Seeing Nangong Ziyu happily walking into the garden, Zhang Shuyu also followed. In the garden, Lin Miao held a long sword in his hand and demonstrated his sword skills with each move. He kept talking about the techniques and weaknesses of each move. Shui Sheng kept silent in his mind and practiced all the moves he had just learned with a branch in his hand. The branches of the tree whirred as he danced. Sui Sui and Qiuju stood 2 feet away, watching Shui Sheng learn meticulously. Sui Sui said in a sweet voice, Aunt Qiuju, Sheng Sheng is awesome. When Sui Sui grows up, I will also use the set of swordsmanship. After a while, Qiuju came back to her senses. Sushui meant it? Could it be that he knows it after reading it once? Qiuju knelt down, held Sushui's fleshy little hand and asked, Sushui, can you memorize the sword technique? I've written it down. I've also read the book Shui Sheng read. My mother said it hurts my wrists to write too early, so I'll read it, Sushui said with a soft smile. Qiuju knew that the young master had an amazing memory, but she didn't expect that he had already reached the stage of photographic memory. Qiuju's eyes were so excited that she felt sore. She is so smart every year, and she will definitely be a very popular minister in the future. There will always be a day when the young lady will be proud, so let the Zhang family regret it. Sui Sui. As soon as she entered the garden, Nangang Ziyu went straight to Sushui. Zhang Shiyu. This person agreed to find his uncle. Doesn't his eyes look bad? I have met Nangang Ziyu several times in Sushui. He showed his signature smile and shouted affectionately, Hello, Uncle Nangang. Nangang Ziyu went up to pick up Sushui and lifted her up, making Sushui giggle. Sui Sui, Uncle lives in the guest room in the outer courtyard. From now on, Uncle can play with Sui Sui every day. Sui Sui smiled with his phoenix eyes curled up. Really, Mother is very busy. Uncle, can you take me to play on the street? Okay, Uncle will take you to East Street tomorrow to watch the lion dance. On the first day the notice was posted, more than 10 doctors came for interviews. Due to the large number of outsiders in Luoyang City, countless people came to apply for the job of drug boys. Nangang Ziyu brought the chosen person to Zhang Shiyu. Girl, this family of 3 is also from Zuxi County. They just arrived yesterday. Zhang Shiyu looked at the family of 3. The couple had regular features and gentle faces. They wandered all the way and looked haggard. The man looked about 40 years old. The boy looked tired, pale, and thin, about 14 or 15 years old. After some questioning, I learned that the boy was already 16 years old. The boy had been studying medicine with his father for several years. There happened to be more than 10 patients in the clinic at this time, and Zhang Shiyu asked the middle-aged man to see the patients and write prescriptions. In less than half an hour, the man's diagnosis was accurate and the prescription he wrote was also quite standard. Zhang Shiyu immediately decided to keep the family of 3. The man's surname was Su, the woman's surname was Zheng, and the boy's name was Dong. And Su helped to place the family of 3 in the front room. After washing up, the 3 of them looked brand new. Zhang Shiyu asked Zheng to help Aunt Su cook and clean up the daily cleaning in the yard. Miss, this is the indenture I wrote. After lunch, Zhang Shiyu just walked into the clinic, and Dr. Su handed over 3 indentures. Zhang Shiyu did not reach out to take them. The indenture contract had to be filed with the government, so she might not stay in Luoyang City for too long. She shook her head and said, Uncle Su, there is no need to sell the indenture contract. Su Dong is still young. If he wants to pursue a career in politics one day, wouldn't that delay his future? In Wanling country, slaves were not allowed to take the imperial examination. If Dr. Su's family had not been desperate and happened to see the notice posted by the clinic, with his medical skills, he could have supported his family by being a traveling doctor. Uncle Su was so moved that his eyes were filled with tears. He bowed and said, Thank you, young lady. Even if you don't accept this indenture contract, my family will still regard you as our master. In Linjiang Academy, the headmaster asked someone to take Sujin and Sunan to settle down, and he went to the study with Su Huiren. Shen, headmaster, are you telling the truth? Su Huiren couldn't believe what the headmaster said. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 42. The mountain leader stroked his grey beard. It's really humiliating to let a distinguished scholar come to teach in the academy. Brother Su, there's no need to refuse. Su Huiran stood up and handed over his hands. Thank you, Mr. Shan Chang. We first came to Liang and struggled. Mr. Shan Chang not only gave my two children the opportunity to study, but was also willing to accept me into the academy. Huiran is extremely grateful. Brother Su, you're welcome. I'm in love with you. The academy does need a gentleman like you. It's a blessing for the scholars that you can come to the academy to serve. The mountain leader is telling the truth. Except for himself, there is really no gentleman in the academy who is a jinchi. The book boy refilled the tea for the two of them, and they chatted about the capital again. Aunt Su was so excited that tears filled her eyes when she learned that her husband could also teach at Linjiang Academy. Mom, Dad said that the academy's salary is generous, enough for a Jin and Nan Nan to study, and enough for us to live. Su Hui carefully hung the new clothes in the closet. She originally planned to pick up embroidery work and take it home to support the family, but her sister said that she could just read and learn with her every year. The medical center made a lot of money, so she didn't have to worry about the family expenses. In order to save money, she often took out cotton clothes to wear at home, so that when Nangang Ziyu saw her in the garden for the first time, she thought she was the maid her uncle bought for him. Today Zhang Shiyu asked Qiuju to go out and buy some new clothes for everyone. Su Huiran moved to the academy, but Aunt Su was reluctant to leave Sui Sui, so she didn't go with him. The next morning, Lin Miaoxiao brought Shui Sheng to Nangang Ziyu. He looked solemn. Ziyu, my uncle will leave Shui Sheng to you for the time being. This child is very talented and a good candidate for martial arts. If my uncle does not return to Blackpool Valley for a year, this child will be entrusted to you. Master, do you no longer want to be a disciple? Shui Sheng heard that Lin Miaoxiao seemed to be asking for help, and he felt panicked. Without my grandmother, my master will leave me again. Nangang Ziyu knew what Lin Miaoxiao was going to do, so he stopped him and said, Uncle, think twice. Empress Wei's father is a veteran of the imperial court. Her aunt's family has a big tree with deep roots. When we return to Blackpool Valley, we can gather together and take our fellow apprentices with us. If you go to Beijing, you have a better chance of winning. Lin Miao patted the baggage in his hand and said, Here are the things that Yu Yetu has prepared for me. I'm sure of it. There was a fierce look in his eyes. The hatred of destroying the family is irreconcilable. I must kill the Wei father and daughter with my own hands to relieve my hatred. The Empress Wei family is not an ordinary official family. The emperor was fatuous, the queen's grandfather had assisted the late emperor, and Empress Wei's father was ambitious. In order to allow the queen's heirs to sit on the throne in the future, the Wei family had raised guards many years ago. On the surface he is a servant, but in fact he is a murderous executioner. Lin Miaoxiao's father was once an imperial physician in the palace. He had evidence in his hand that the Wei family had murdered the royal heirs, which led to the murder. He had to take revenge on the Lin family by himself. Seeing that Nangang Ziyu couldn't persuade him, he took Shui Sheng's hand and said, Uncle, I will take good care of my junior brother, and I will not slack off in practicing every day. If you go to the capital, if you don't have a chance to make a move, return to Blackpool Valley as soon as possible. Keep the green hills and don't worry about running out of firewood. Master, you must come back. My disciple will grow up one day. Practice well and master will come back. Seeing his master leaving resolutely, Shui Sheng secretly vowed that he would study hard and practice hard to help his master kill his enemies in the future. In the afternoon, more than 20 carriages pulled rice noodles and headed out of the city. Nangang Ziyu and Shui Sheng rode the same horse. The streets are busy with traffic, and the long motorcade is particularly eye-catching. Passers-by stop to watch. Is this the Yan'an Palace sending food to the refugee villages again? Some people shook their heads. It's not like that. When the palace delivers food, It's escorted by guards. You see, these carriages and horses are all running goods on the streets. Look, I saw that man riding a horse with his child in Jishi Hall. Is it Jishitang who is helping the victims? Someone said with certainty, it must be Jishitang. Everyone says that Miss Zhang from Jishitang looks like a fairy. She is good at charity and must be a goddess descended to earth. Nangang Ziyu sent the grain directly to the temporary official office where the grain was distributed. Officials and government officials are registering the grain distribution according to the roster. Meeting Nangang Ziyu was like meeting his parents. This young master has sent you food again. I will kowtow to you on behalf of the victims. Nangang Ziyu quickly supported the official. Sir, you can't help it. The food here is not mine alone. You have records. It will not cause anyone to receive more or less. You will help distribute it to the victims. I couldn't be more grateful. If he remembered correctly, the jade-faced young man sent grain at least 5 times, and each time he delivered less than 200 den. Nangang Ziyu still wrote the number of loads of grain on the official document as usual, and still wrote the nameless person in the signature. In the palace of Prince Yan'an, Xiao Jingzhao looked at the portrait in his hand, which he drew from memory. He picked up a piece of paper on the table and covered the portrait, revealing only the upper half of the woman's face. Xiang Yang's eyes lit up. Master, they look really alike. Xiao Jingzhao threw the knife at him. What does it mean to be true? If it is, it is, if it is not, it is not. Xiao Jingzhao grew up in a military camp. He always spoke the truth and did not agree with the golden mean. Xiang Yang shrank his neck and asked Xiang Song, is it similar? Miss Jiang's eyes are brighter. Before Xiang Song could answer, Xiao Jingzhao waved, come here and take a closer look. Is it her? Xiao Jingzhao himself didn't know why the woman's appearance kept appearing in his mind these past 2 days. Xiang Song went up and looked carefully, then moved the paper up a little, recalling Zhang Shiyu's appearance. No wonder he felt familiar. It's her. Xiang Song's tone was firm. Are you sure? I'm sure. The girl in the master's writing is a little immature. It's been more than 4 years. Miss Zhang is more mature than before. Xiang Yang was so excited when he heard it that he was ready to fight. I said it. Miss Zhang is as beautiful as a fairy, and she is the most suitable match for the master. Xiang Song saw that the master frowned slightly, and pulled Xiang Yang out. When can you make progress? The master's face is almost dripping with ink, and you are still whining. I'm doing this for the master, isn't it? Okay, okay. What you said makes sense. I won't stop you next time. You can wait to go to the stable to feed the horses. Xiang Song was disappointed. The master has ruined the innocence of others. If it is really Miss Zhang, is it just like this? Xiang Yang muttered. Are you stupid? What was the situation at that time? The woman was also drugged. They saved each other's lives, you know. Xiang Song glared at Xiang Yang, his eyes looked like he was looking at a fool. Doesn't that just show that the master and Miss Zhang are destined to be together? Xiang Song was almost furious at this stupidity. It was just a coincidence, how could it be related to fate? When the two were arguing, a guard came to report that someone wanted to see them, and they shut up. Xiao Jingzhao quickly put away the portrait. Come in. Hearing the message, a man in official robes hurried in. Greetings, Prince. Why, isn't the money allocated enough? No, I came to report that the young master has sent grain again, and some refugees recognized that he had appeared in Jishitang. Xiao Jingzhao raised his eyes slightly. Are you saying that the person who secretly donated grain is Jishitang? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 43. The official bowed and said, "It is very likely that Jishitang has helped many refugees. I heard that the doctor of Jishitang is a remarkable woman. The man who refused to leave his name may be her husband." Xiao Jingzhao frowned slightly. "Is she married? There are many refugees. If all merchants have the compassion of Jishitang, it will not be difficult to resettle refugees." Seeing Xiao Jingzhao's thin lips tightly pursed, the official continued, "Jishitang does good deeds without leaving a name, and it deserves to be rewarded. Today, the father and son delivered grain to the outside of the city together. Their family also passed on the good deeds to the next generation, which is admirable." Xiao Jingzhao's hand on the table trembled slightly. "Child." Suddenly, the dream popped up in his mind again. It was so real that it seemed to have happened. The words of Daddy were still ringing in his ears. Xiao Jingzhao seemed not to hear the official's farewell words. When he came to his senses, the room was empty. "Someone. I'm here." Two heads slowly popped out of the window. Xiao Jingzhao twisted his fingers. "It's been a few days since I asked you to investigate, why haven't you mentioned anything?" "Master. We checked, Miss Zhang is also a refugee, she came from Zuxi County, and there was a family surnamed Su with her." Before Xiang Yang could speak, he was pressed down by Xiang Song, and only Xiang Song could be seen answering at the window. "Does she have any children?" "No, I haven't seen any." Xiang Song was sure. "Oh, by the way, I found out that the accountant of Jishitang went to Linjiang Academy," Xiang Song said, and let go of Xiang Yang's hand. Xiang Yang came up from the window and quickly agreed, "Yes, yes, yes, the doctor in the clinic has also been replaced, and the two sons of the Su family have also gone to the academy to study. It was the headmaster who personally went to the clinic to invite them." Xiao Jingzhao said to Xiang Song, "Someone from the palace sent a reward to the clinic today, you go with them." "Master, are you going?" "You go and prepare the carriage, let's go to the academy to see how the headmaster is recovering." Xiang Yang. Really going to see the headmaster? After receiving the order, Xiang Song walked quickly towards Xiaozu Pavilion. In Xiaozu Pavilion, Xiao Kong stood under the monstera, the breeze was gentle, he took a deep breath, the faint fragrance of the bamboo leaves was refreshing. The breeze blew, and the long gown embroidered with elegant bamboo leaf patterns fluttered, setting off the slender figure. Elegant and elegant. "Young master, it's windy outside, you'd better go inside, be careful not to catch a cold." Xiao Gaiza saw that the master had been strolling in the yard for a quarter of an hour, which had never happened before during the master's illness. Xiao Kong raised his arms and did a few chest expansion movements, breathing smoothly, without the feeling of tightness. His phoenix eyes slightly curved, "No problem, go to the flower hall and put the piano." After a while, the sound of the piano floated out of Xiaozu Pavilion. Xiang Song stayed outside the yard for a while, and walked towards the east yard like a gust of wind. The maid turned around and went in to report after seeing Xiang Song. After a while, Aunt Cai, who was beside the princess, came out with a brocade box. Aunt Cai, quickly let someone tell the princess that the young master can play the piano. Xiang Song, who usually doesn't smile, smiled at this time. Aunt Cai was originally a smiling person. She said with joy, "The princess went to see the eldest young master early in the morning. Xiao Gaiza said that the eldest young master did not cough last night. The princess asked me to send the reward Linjiang Academy." The headmaster took a sip of the teacup. This was the third cup of tea he had drunk. He didn't understand what happened to the prince today. After sitting for a long time, the prince didn't say anything serious. Xiao Jingzhao was not like this before. If there was no major event, he would send a guard to inform him. The headmaster knows people and appoints them well, very good. Xiao Jingzhao smiled faintly on his handsome face. He seemed to say unintentionally, Dr. Zhang and the Su family are all from Zuxi County. I heard from Brother Su that they are not relatives but better than relatives. The headmaster seemed to remember something. He paused and said, Miss Zhang also has a Beijing accent. Maybe the two families are old friends. Until Xiao Jingzhao left, the headmaster didn't understand the real purpose of the prince's visit today. On East Street at this time, Sushui rode on Nangang Ziyu's neck, watching the colorful lion dance on the flower stand, jumping up and down, and a pair of phoenix eyes followed the lion dancers. Shui Sheng stood beside Nangang Ziyu very sensibly. He knew that he could only see the back of the person in front of him when he stood on tiptoe, so he simply looked up at Sushui and giggled. Nangang Ziyu, who was in the clear wind and moon, didn't want any romantic image at this time. He grabbed Sushui's leg with one hand, squatted slightly, and picked up Shui Sheng with the other hand. Before Shui Sheng could refuse, his body flew into the air. The vision in front of him suddenly opened up, the gongs and drums were loud, and it was very lively. The cheers were endless. After the lion dance, there was another illusion. Only after watching the big transformation did Nangang Ziyu take the two little ones to go shopping. The two of them ate almost all the way. They put down the candied haws and ate water chestnut cakes. They didn't walk far and saw a man selling malt sugar. Nangang Ziyu shouted to the candy seller, "Give me half a pound. Uncle Nangang, my mother said that Sheng Sheng and I can't eat too much candy. We've eaten enough today, so we won't buy any more." Sushui held Shui Sheng's hand with one hand and Nangang Ziyu's big hand with the other. He looked up and said seriously. Shui Sheng looked at Sushui with his eyes full of pampering. Seeing a sesame seed on Sushui's lips, he lifted his sleeve and wiped it gently. "Brother, Sui is right. And you said that eating candy will cause tooth decay." Nangang Ziyu admired the two little ones' self-control very much. When passing by a pastry shop, Nangang Ziyu bought 2 boxes of pastries to take back. In the clinic, Zhang Shiyu and Dr. Su took the pulse and prescribed medicine. Su Dong understood medical theory and dispensed medicine very quickly. He dispensed medicine alone and collected consultation fees. Occasionally, he also reminded patients of the precautions for boiling medicine. When Xiang Song and Aunt Cai came, there were still many patients in the clinic. This time, Zhang Shiyu did not refuse. She took the brocade box and thanked him in a humble and neither humble nor arrogant manner. Aunt Cai looked at Zhang Shiyu with a smile, "Princess, please come to the palace tomorrow to help the eldest young master." As she spoke, a pair of smiling eyes fluttered on Zhang Shiyu's bright face. With a full forehead, snow-white skin, and black hair like a waterfall, Aunt Cai was very curious about what kind of delicate beauty was under the veil. Seeing Zhang Shiyu combing her hair into a bun, Aunt Cai's eyes flashed with regret. "Don't worry, Aunt, I will go to the palace tomorrow." Xiang Song glanced at the patient waiting in the clinic, and he bowed and said, "The palace will send a carriage to pick up the girl, and it won't take too long." After seeing Aunt Cai off, Zhang Shiyu walked to the backyard. She didn't even have time to open the brocade box before throwing it into the space. As night fell, Shui Sheng practiced, and Sushui watched from the side. Seeing Shui Sheng put away the last move, Sushui looked around. Sheng, do you like to watch the lion dance or the big magic? Do you still want to watch it?" Shui Sheng saw through Sushui's thoughts at a glance. "Well, I saw today that there is a tea house across the street with a good location. It's not good to trouble Uncle Nangang all the time. Let's go quietly." "That's it, don't let Aunt Kyoja know." Before Shui Sheng could answer, Sushui ran to the west wing with his short legs. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 44. In the bathroom, Zhang Shiyu pulled down the bolt and slipped into the space. The sweet potato seedlings in the spiritual soil grew more than 2 feet long. She didn't know when the green potato seedlings would mature. Walking into the thatched house, the brocade box with auspicious cloud border was placed on the table. Without suspense, she opened the brocade box, and inside was a neat stack of silver notes, a full 20,000 taels of silver notes, which were exchanged by Guangdong Money House. Guangdong Money House has shops throughout Wanling country, and exchange is very convenient. Zhang Shuya closed the brocade box and fell into deep thought. Things are moving in a good direction, and the day of returning to Beijing is just around the corner. Zhang Shuya picked up a charcoal pencil she made and wrote a plan. Mother. Hearing Sui Sui's shout, she quickly threw down the charcoal pencil and slipped out of the space. Zhang Shuya quickly washed up and opened the door, and saw Kaiju and Sui Sui standing at the door. Miss, Sui Sui didn't let me help him take a bath, Kaiju said helplessly. Uncle Nangong said I'm an adult now, and there are differences between men and women. Mother, can I go to Shuisheng's room to take a bath? Zhang Shuya couldn't help laughing. The little brat who dragged his mother to sleep every night actually said that there were differences between men and women. But she understood that children like to play with other children. She gently pinched the baby flesh on her son's face and chuckled, Go, Shuisheng has to practice in the morning, don't play too late. Looking at Sui Sui running away with his short legs, Qiuju smiled and asked, Miss, when will the young master sleep in a separate bed? Qiuju secretly complained in her heart that the young lady would have to find a new son-in-law in the future, and Sui Sui couldn't always stick to the young lady. No hurry, it won't be too late to let him live alone when we return to the capital. Miss, can we go back to the capital? Qiuju showed a touch of surprise on her face. Then he quickly hung his head, if the Zhang family sees us going back, I wonder if they will embarrass us. After all, the Zhang family announced that their daughter died of a sudden illness, and the dead person appeared in front of everyone again, which would definitely arouse everyone's suspicion. At that time, no matter how the Zhang family explained, people would criticize them. Zhang Shuya gently tapped Kaiju's forehead with her finger, Silly girl, we are not vegetarians. Today, Princess Yanan gave me a reward of 20,000 taels, which is enough for us to buy as many people who can fight as we want in the capital. Zhang Shuya used to be disgusted with the buying and selling of slaves here. Now that she has a son, she can't afford any mistakes. She has to have people she can use to feel at ease. The only servants who can be used with confidence are those who have signed a death contract. After Lin Miaoxiao left, Shuisheng lived alone in the main house. When Sushui went in, he saw a few locks in front of Shuisheng. That was what Nangong Ziyu asked him to practice. Sheng, I want you to help me take a bath, okay? Facing the soft and cute little girl, how could Shuisheng refuse? Shuisheng had just brought the hot water back when he heard footsteps. Shuisheng, how is your practice going? Brother, I'll continue practicing after I help Sushui take a bath. Nangong Ziyu came to the main house. In order not to disturb the people in the south and west wing rooms, he entered the hanging flower gate and walked through the middle of the garden. Nangong Ziyu rolled up his sleeves and said as he walked to the bathroom, the rivers and lakes are dangerous. High martial arts skills are an advantage. Kimandunjia is indispensable. Small tricks are often used. More skills are better. It was the first time for Nangong Ziyu to bathe a child. Sushui's little face was flushed after washing, and he slapped the water with his little hands from time to time. The water splashed, and Sushui giggled. Looking at the delicate child, Nangong Ziyu felt a little warm in his heart. It would be great if Sushui was his son. This child is so rare. Sushui, do you want a father? He slipped out without thinking about it. Sui Sui's obsidian eyes blinked. What do you need your father for? Nangong Ziyu. Why is this child's brain circuit different from when he was a child? He has regarded his master as his father since he was a child, and sometimes he wishes that his master is his father. But his master told him that his parents are someone else and asked him to find them himself. Nangongzi took Sui Sui out of the water and wiped the water droplets off his body with a cotton towel. While putting on his pajamas on his little arms, he said, "Dad can do a lot of things, make money to buy delicious food for Sui Sui, and protect your mother." Sui Sui curled his lips and disagreed with this statement. Mom can also make money, and Sui Sui can also protect Mom. Nangongzi. After putting on his pajamas, Sui Sui watched Shui Sheng fiddling with the lock. Shui Sheng's comprehension is very good. Soon, Shui Sheng went from opening a lock in half a quarter of an hour to opening a lock in 3 or 5 breaths. Nangongzi saw that it was getting late, so he held Sushui's hand and said, "Uncle will take you to the garden." The moonlight poured down, and the shadows of the leaves on the ground swayed slightly, like a moving ink painting. Holding the soft little hand, the flowers exuded fragrance, and there were occasional crickets chirping in the grass. Under the eaves, the lanterns swayed gently, and the warm light was particularly warm. The window of the west wing was still lit. He remembered a sentence, "Among the lights of thousands of houses, there is always a light reserved for you, this is the feeling of home." Watching Sushui enter the west wing, Nangongzi stared blankly at a beam of candlelight breaking out of the door, and then closing it again as the little figure entered. A moment later, he stepped on his toes and left the garden in 2 jumps. This night was destined to be a sleepless night. King Yan'an returned to the mansion. He was assassinated on the way and returned to the mansion with injuries. The lights in the palace were bright. It was already 3 o'clock in the morning when the palace doctor treated the wound on the prince's back. Xiao Jingzhao sat in front of his father's bed, his handsome face was as cold as ice, and murderous intent was in his eyes. Princess Yan'an wiped her tears with a handkerchief in her hand, her voice choked, "Prince, we have never been hated by others. Who did this? Do you know? We are in the light, and the enemy is in the dark. From now on, the errands outside will be handed over to the officials of the fiefdom. Kong finally found a doctor and is expected to recover. If you have any problems, I will not be able to survive." The princess burst into tears. King Yan'an lay on his side on the couch, his face pale. He was strong-willed after many battles and did not look weak. He said slowly, "All the people coming here are warriors. If it weren't for the fact that the people I brought with them were all skilled in martial arts, I alone would not be able to resist them. Don't cry, mother. Fortunately, father didn't hurt his internal organs. My elder and second sisters will be worried when they see your swollen eyes tomorrow. I know this." Xiao Jingzhao said that father needed to rest, and after much persuasion, he finally persuaded mother to go back to the house to rest. As soon as Xiao Jingzhao returned to the bed, King Yan'an snorted and said, "There are not many people who keep assassins, and there are not many people who want my life. The man in the capital now sees Yan'an as a fat piece of meat, and he wants to kill more than just me. Father, I understand, I have arranged the manpower. No matter how many assassins he sends, he will never return." After a moment of silence, Xiao Jingzhao leaned over and looked at King Yan'an. "Father, what do you think about the matter I mentioned? As long as you nod, I will succeed." King Yan'an closed his eyes slightly, thinking about his father's last words, and his heart was in a struggle. "Don't do it unless it is absolutely necessary." He gritted his teeth and nodded slightly. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 45. Back at Qinghui Courtyard, Xiao Jingzhao sat in front of the desk, his narrow phoenix eyes exuding coldness, and his slender fingers tapped on the table. After a while, seeing his master's fingers stop, Xiang Song bowed and said, "Master, would you like a pen and ink?" Xiao Jingzhao gave him an approving look, his eyes sinking slightly. "Don't worry, let me make some more plans." Xiang Yang was confused. What his master and Xiang Song said sounded like a mumble to him. After a breath, he saw that his master did not speak, and he said, "Master, my subordinates have made arrangements. The matter of the prince's injury will never be reported to Xiaozuxuan. The eldest young master has just gotten better, but he can't get angry in a hurry." Xiao Jingzhao said calmly, "No news about the prince's injury when he returned to the palace should be leaked, both internally and externally. I will issue a gag order again." Watching Xiang Yang walk away, Xiang Song said worriedly, "Master, our troops are limited. Compared with the Jin Yiwei in the capital, our chance of winning is only 50%. If the capital calls back soldiers from the border to serve as foreign aid, we have no chance of winning at all." Xiao Jingzhao didn't know this. Several princes in the royal family have also been dissatisfied for a long time. Each family secretly keeps private soldiers in their fiefdoms, but no one will act rashly and they are not good. If anyone wants to borrow soldiers, they must get a share of the pie. Everyone wants to let others bear the risk and benefit from it themselves. Seeing that the coldness around his master had dissipated, Xiang Song looked out the window. "Master, please rest. Tomorrow I will have to read the booklet brought back by the prince and count the number of refugees in various places, etc." Refugees. Xiao Jingzhao's eyes lit up. Served by pen and ink. Seeing his master's brows relax, Xiang Song was overjoyed and hurriedly stepped forward to polish the ink. The next day, Xiao Jingzhao summoned a group of counselors, and Xiang Song led the guards to wait outside the meeting hall, not letting a fly in. When it came to picking up Zhang Shuyu from Jishi Hall for the eldest young master's follow-up consultation, Xiang Yang led the driver. Zhang Shuyu entered Xiaozuxuan and saw the man painting in the flower hall, who was as gentle as jade and had a rosy complexion. He was completely different from the sickly and frail man a few days ago. Seeing his savior, Xiao Kong gently pinched the cuff of his right hand with his left hand and put down his pen and ink gracefully. "Xiao Gaizi, please sit down quickly." Xiao Kong stood up and walked to the side table, raised his hand and made an invitation gesture. "Miss Zhang, please." A humble gentleman, with elegance in his handsomeness, and a clear and clean smile, as if he had never seen the turmoil in the world. Zhang Shuyu smiled back. "The young master seems to have recovered well, which shows that the people in your house have taken good care of you. Miracle doctor, please have tea." When Xiang Hua and Lua heard the miracle doctor's affirmation, they smiled happily and served tea and cakes respectfully. Zhang Shuyu was embarrassed to be called a miracle doctor. She smiled at the two maids and said, "Just call me Miss Zhang. I don't dare to be a miracle doctor. The girl has superb medical skills, so she deserves it," Vanilla said seriously. Xiao Kong smiled and said nothing, lightly lifted his robe and sat across from the waiter. Zhang Shuyu opened the medicine box and took out the pulse pillow. Vanilla took a piece of silk and placed it on Xiao Kang's white wrist. "The pulse is slightly weak, which is very different from the previous few days." Zhang Shuyu retracted her hand, nodded and said, "You're recovering well. I'll leave you another recipe for body conditioning, which will be available in half a month." The eldest young master's chronic illness has long since weakened his body, leaving him unable to get enough to replenish his body. The palace doctor also understands this. Zhang Shuyu left the prescription and a few bottles of spray, gave some instructions and then left. "Girl, wait." As soon as Zhang Shuyu put the medical kit on her shoulder, Xiao Kong called out to her. "Young master, the princess sent someone to send a lot of medical fees, so you don't have to pay any more this time." Xiao Kong smiled faintly, rolled up a painting on the table and put it into the scroll. The girl misunderstood. "The girl has rejuvenated her wonderfully. I can't repay you. I can only use a painting, so I hope the girl will accept it. Zhang Shuyu is also a person who can paint. If she is willing to give people calligraphy and painting, it must be a proud work." She stretched out her hands to take the scroll and smiled slightly. "Thank you, young master. The eldest young master of the palace has extraordinary calligraphy. Su Hui also loves calligraphy and painting." She happened to borrow flowers to offer to Buddha and took them back for her to copy and study. Xiangyang escorted Zhang Shiyu out of Xiaozuxuan. Xiao Gaizi put away the spray and prescription, and asked in confusion, "Master, why don't you explain to Miss Zhang that one of your paintings is worth at least several hundred taels of silver, which is no less than the medical fee? It's tacky to talk about money." Xiao Gaizi was speechless. The eldest son of his family was so well protected by the prince, princess, and prince that he had no idea of the sufferings in the world. Zhang Shiyu left the palace and was sent back to Jishi Hall by Xiangyang and the driver. On the bustling street, two small figures were walking hand in hand among the crowd. "Sheng Sheng, do you hear the drums? Are we too late?" "No, be careful where you step." Shui Sheng held Sui Sui's little hand with one hand and put his other hand on the back of the person in front of him, protecting Sui Sui in front of him. The cries of people selling snacks on the street kept coming and going, making me salivate with greed. Shui Sheng was afraid of being stepped on every year, so he shouted loudly, "Give in, give in." After pushing through the crowd and crossing a street, the two of them continued to walk forward under the eaves of the shops along the street. "Sheng Sheng, look, the lion is dancing. Every year I dance with joy." Suddenly, Sushui pouted and stared at the tea house in front of him. "What if the waiter doesn't let us go up?" Shui Sheng gritted his teeth and said, "Let's go up to find daddy. If Xiao doesn't let me go up, I'll cry for them to see. As long as he can make Sushui happy, he will do it. What face or not, children don't need it." At this time, Xiangyang sent Zhang Shiyu from Jishitang to the palace. There were too many people on East Street, shoulder to shoulder, and the wonderful performance attracted cheers. Even the people on the road slowed down and couldn't help but glance at the lion dance stage. No matter how the driver shouted, the carriage could not move forward quickly. Xiangyang sat on the shaft, one foot on the shaft, and one foot hanging by the shaft. He leaned his back against the carriage, his hands folded in front of his chest, his eyes like torches. The drum sounded again, and the wonderful performance on the high platform came into view. Xiangyang secretly complained in his heart that his master had so many troubles. If his master came to see this performance, he would be in a good mood. Thinking in his heart, his eyes couldn't help but look directly opposite the high platform. On the second floor of the tea house, people were busy. Suddenly, a familiar little face caught his eyes. Who is he? Why does he look so familiar? After a breath, Xiangyang slapped his thigh. How come this kid looks exactly like the master? If he takes this kid back, the master will be happy to see him. Yes. Just do it. Just before the carriage passed by the tea house, Xiangyang jumped off the carriage and walked towards the tea house in 2 steps. In front of the window, Sushui was standing on a chair and watching with great interest. Shui Sheng still held Sushui's back with one hand, for fear that he would step on the chair and fall down in excitement. Suddenly, Shui Sheng's hand was empty, and a scream rang out, and a tall figure jumped down from the window. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article feed, placement, below article feed, target. Type, mix. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 46. Sui Sui. Shui Sheng watched helplessly as a man in a tight suit kidnapped Sui Sui from his hands. The man flew down the tea house, stepped on the shoulders of passers-by, and disappeared in front of him in a few jumps. He wanted to jump out of the window to chase him, but his lightness skills were not yet perfect. Shui Sheng was so anxious that sweat broke out on his forehead. He chased him out while shouting, "The beggars are robbing people. The people in the tea house were also stunned by this sudden scene. There has never been a street robbery in Luoyang City. Some enthusiastic people also followed Shui Sheng and chased him out. Someone reacted, "Report to the police, report to the police quickly." The shopkeeper in the tea house shouted to the waiter in a panic, "Yes, report to the police quickly." The two children said they went upstairs to find their father. Now that the person is missing, the tea house cannot be separated from the responsibility. Seeing that he was being held in the air, Sui Sui just screamed and was so scared that he shut up quickly. There was a whirring sound and exclamations in his ears, and a big hand tightly hugged his waist. Sui Sui was so shocked that he almost forgot to breathe. He passed through the crowd, passed by the dazzling shops, and was taken to the roof again. White walls and black tiles. If he hadn't been robbed, Sui Sui would have thought it was fun to be held and fly. Until he fell from a high place to a low place, Sui Sui kicked his legs hard, "Let me go, I want to go back." But his arms and legs were too short, and he was lifted up in the air. His hands and feet fluttered, just like a beetle being lifted up in the air. A man's voice came from above, "Little ancestor, please don't move, I won't hurt you. Don't treat me as a 3-year-old child. You are just a beggar." Sui Sui's shouting was full of tears. He was kidnapped. How anxious Shui Sheng must be. After a while, he passed a high wall, a piece of green flashed in front of his eyes, and he was carried into a tall house, and Sui Sui's feet finally landed on the ground. The man's hand loosened, Sui Sui lost his balance, his feet softened, and he sat on the ground. "Master, look what I brought you." Xiang Yang ignored the child sitting on the carpet, and shouted with a flattering face, as if offering a treasure. After the counselors left, Xiao Jingzhao returned to the study to continue to sort out the plan. Hearing Xiang Yang's shout, Xiao Jingzhao put down the pen in his hand, raised his head and frowned, "What can you bring me?" "Thousands of troops." "Master, look at the ground, it's more fun than thousands of troops." Xiang Yang had a suspenseful expression on his face. Xiao Jingzhao flicked his wide sleeves and turned around slowly. A child was looking at him with tears in his eyes, and his little mouth was stubbornly pursed, trying not to cry out. The child was born with a delicate face, with 2 buns on his head, and a few strands of hair on the back of his head. If it weren't for the lake-colored boy's clothes, he would have thought it was a girl at first glance. A pair of phoenix eyes were shining, staring at him intently. "Hey! Why do you look so familiar?" Sushui was also stunned by the appearance of the man in front of him. Sushui quickly realized that the old fox in front of him really looked like himself. "Oh my God! It turned out that what my mother said was true, there really was someone exactly like him." He was originally prepared to cry loudly, attracting the attention of others, so that Peiwazi had to let him go. He saw that there was no one else in the big room, and crying was useless. The little hand was hidden in the sleeve, twisting and twisting, pursing the little mouth to think of a countermeasure. The big and the small, the 4 eyes met. No one wanted to speak first. Time seemed to be frozen, and the room was so quiet that it made people panic. Xiang Yang looked at his master. That expression, although not as cold as frost, was not warm at all. Then he looked at the child. The little face was stern, and 2 tears rolled in the eyes but did not fall. 4 words popped up in Zhangjiang's mind. 2 stubborn guys. "Master, look at him, he looks like you, do you like him?" Xiao Jingzhao didn't even look at him, staring at the little man on the ground. His appearance was calm, but his heart was already in turmoil. Seeing that his master was not as happy as he expected, Zhangjiang's heart stomped. Oops! This flattery must have hit the horse's leg. Could this child be the sin that the prince committed outside? Xiang Yang realized that he had committed a big crime. The prince promised the princess not to take concubines. The princess gave birth to 2 sons and 2 daughters for the prince. Xiang Yang thought to himself, people are greedy. He was worried about the prince's injury last night, but those worries have been swept away now. It's not too late to send the child away now and prevent the princess from seeing it. He looked at Xiao Jingzhao, Master, don't take it to heart. No one can take your position as the prince away. He is just a baby. I will put him back. Just when Xian Jiang's hand was about to touch Sushui, Xiao Jingzhao raised his hand, wait a minute. Xiang Yang. Master is kind. Is he going to recognize this brother? Sushui held back his tears and looked into the house with his obsidian eyes. The house is very big, bigger than the main house where Shui Sheng lived. There is a sword hanging on the wall, with a few red stones on it, shining, they should be gems. This old fox is really rich, he is definitely not a human or a beggar. The floor-to-ceiling screen in the room is very beautiful, and there is still a small couch behind the screen. The carpet under the buttocks is soft, and everything in the room exudes a sense of nobility. This old fox has a high level of cultivation. No, he is a high-ranking official. What's your name? Finally, Xiao Jingzhao couldn't help but ask the first sentence. Sui Sui looked at Xiao Jingzhao warily, my name is Sui Sui, and I know you. Xiao Jingzhao was stunned, and he and Xiang Yang looked at each other. Who is your mother? How do you know me? Sui Sui Yigula climbed up from the ground and patted the non-existent dust on his butt. Your name is Old Fox. Ft. Ha ha ha. Xiang Yang couldn't help laughing. Seeing the black line on his master's face, Xiang Yang quickly covered his mouth, his shoulders shaking like chaff. Sui Sui rolled his eyes. Snort. Childish. For people who have never heard the story, is it that funny? Xiao Jingzhao almost spurted out a mouthful of old blood, and asked patiently, who taught you to say that? Sui Sui turned around and saw a small couch not far away. He walked over, climbed up, and sat down. After finding the most comfortable sitting position, he replied slowly, my mother told me the story of the fox. His subtext is that your deceptive trick doesn't work. The more Xiao Jingzhao asked, the more confused he became, thinking that it would be easier to communicate with children. Go and bring the second lady here. Xiang Yang's eyes widened, Master, the second young lady is only 10 years old. She has no control over her fiery temper. We'd better not let the princess know. Xiao Jingzhao thought about it again, and that's right. He didn't understand it now. It was better not to let the mother and concubine know. If the child had nothing to do with him, the mother and concubine would not be happy in vain. He waved his hand, go and get him some food. Sushui. Actually, it doesn't have to be that troublesome. As long as you let me go, any one of us can be the father. What are you thinking about? Xiao Jingzhao felt inexplicably uneasy when he saw that Suzy was calm and composed, his eyes moving around wildly. Xiao Jingzhao's Adam's apple rolled up and down, and he said hoarsely, what's your mother's name? After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 47. Sui Sui's sly eyes swept over the man's face. If he could reach it, he would like to reach out and pinch what the immortal face is made of, and why it is so similar to his own. Not to mention, this old fox is quite good looking, but his eyes are too complicated for the baby to understand. He secretly thought to himself that he couldn't bring trouble to his mother, and he wouldn't suffer any loss if he called her daddy. He was so rich, he would definitely not sell himself out. He is very good at memorizing directions. Even if he is sold, he can still find it back. My mother once said that a good man does not suffer immediate losses, but he who knows the current affairs is a hero. He raised his chin and said fiercely, don't beat around the bush, is your family short of a son? Ahem. Xiao Jingzhao felt a cold air entering his lungs and couldn't help but cough violently. Bang dang. Yes, I'm sorry, My hands are slippery. I'll bring you another plate right now. Xiang Yang didn't even have time to pick up the broken porcelain pieces on the ground, and turned around and ran away. What a god! This naughty kid is so brave that he dares to challenge the prince. After running for a while, Xiang Yang slowed down and scratched the back of his head. He said to himself, it's over, the prince won't beat that kid, right? Who do you think the master wants to beat? Xiang Yang raised his head suddenly and saw that he took one step forward and ran into Xiang Song's arms. Seeing Xiang Song, Xiang Yang felt like he had seen a savior. He stretched out his hand and dragged Xiang Song to the tree in the garden and told the whole story. What? Did you capture someone else's child? Do you know what the chaos is like on East Street? Everyone has gone to the Yamen to report to the police. Xiang Song glared at Xiang Yang fiercely. We are similar, are you trying to make the master happy? You are just causing trouble. Xiang Song had just returned from the Yamen when he heard people on the street talking. The public security in Luoyang City has always been very good, and some people have begun to wonder if this was done by homeless people. It's really similar, no, exactly the same. Xiang Song, go and have a look. If the child really says that he is the prince's son, you have to protect him. The child is innocent. Shut up. Xiang Song was almost furious at how stupid he was. He wanted to open his brain and see what was inside. In the study, Xiao Jingzhao felt deflated for the first time in his life. Looking at the little face carved in the same mold as his own, he was 90% sure that this baby was his son. He hasn't met the child's mother yet, so he doesn't know how to answer this question. Tell me first who your mother is. Then I'll answer your question. Sushui was wondering, what does this guy mean? Isn't this the bad fox's trick? He stretched his little arms and moved back, leaning his back on the couch, twisting and twirling his little hands, but he couldn't think of a solution. Seeing Sui Sui's attitude of carrying on till the end, Xiao Jingzhao felt a strange emotion in his heart. If it were any other child, he would have threatened him by hanging him on a tree. Facing the soft and cute Sui Sui, Xiao Jingzhao suddenly felt that he had the patience of a loving father. You can always tell me where you are from. Xiao Jingzhao didn't realize how soft his tone was. Sheng Sheng and I were watching the lion dance on the second floor of the tea house, and the big flying guy caught me here. Sushui took a breath, his tone full of grievances. Don't be afraid, where do you live? I'll take you back right away. I don't know the name of that alley. If you send me to the lion dance, I can go back by myself. Xiao Jingzhao. This kid is too guarded. Master, this. When Xiao Jing was at a loss what to do, Xiang Song walked in. Xiang Song was also shocked when he saw Sushui. He looked at his master, then at Sui Sui, and repeated this several times. It's so similar. It turned out that I had wrongly blamed Xiang Yang. If I saw this child, I would have to find a way to bring him to the crown prince, but the stupid way of bringing him was too rough. Xiang Song also heard the conversation between the elder and the younger and understood what his master meant. He suggested, Master, someone has gone to the Yamen to report to the government. If the child's family cannot find him, they will be anxious. When Sui Sui heard this, his eyes filled with mist again. He raised his little face and rushed towards Songdao. Uncle, can you send me out? I will cry if you can't find me. Seeing Sui Sui's eyes turn red, Xiao Jingzhao's heart clenched inexplicably. He waved his hand and said, that's all. Send Sushui to Dongda Street and find the person named Sheng Sheng. His name is Shui Sheng, and he is my little friend. Sheng Sheng is his nickname for Shui Sheng, and he doesn't want anyone else to call him Sheng Sheng. Master, don't worry, I understand. Xiang Song turned his back to Sushui and made a gesture to Xiao Jingzhao. As soon as Sushui slipped off the couch, Xiang Yang came in with a plate of fragrant pastries. Xiang Yang kept smiling, young master, Try some of the silk cakes freshly baked in the kitchen. Huh? Don't eat? Bad guy. Who knows if you put drugs in the pastries? My mother said not to eat food given by strangers. Sui Sui raised his chin and gave Xiang Yang a roll of his eyes. When he reached the door, Sui Sui couldn't help but look back at the people in the room. This fox doesn't seem bad. If he smiled, he might be a little bit cute. Goodbye, uncle. Oh, no. Sushui waved to Xiao Jingzhao and showed a bright smile. Xiao Jingzhao's back stiffened, and he resisted the urge to lift the child back and take a look at it again. Watching Sui Sui turn around and leave impatiently, he walked towards the window and watched as the little figure was hugged by Xiang Song and jumped up to the wall. See you soon. Xiang Yang pretended not to hear anything, turned around and called the servant to clean up the broken porcelain at the door of the study. On the street, Sushui had long disappeared when Shui Sheng chased him out. Uncle, did you see a big man running with a child in his arms? Mom, have you seen a flower girl running past here holding a 3 or 4-year-old child? Shui Sheng shed tears and looked in the direction where Sui Sui disappeared. He seemed to be going crazy, asking people when he saw them. Son, don't worry. The shopkeeper of the tea house has already sent someone to report to the official. After a while, the official will find your brother and send him to the tea house. If you go far away, what will he do if he can't find you when he comes back? The enthusiastic woman chased after him and dragged the lost Shui Sheng back to look for him. Can the official help me find him? Shui Sheng asked anxiously. Yes, Leiyang City will not throw away children. If you are caught by an official while doing sex, you will be severely punished. What the woman said was not just comforting words. Not only in Leiyang City, but also in the whole of Yan'an, there were very few patriots. There has been a precedent where the Yamen directly beheaded the person at Keishikao after verifying the truth. From then on, everyone here knew that in all the cities in the Yan'an fiefdom, the laws were like a mountain, and there was no room for favoritism. Reluctantly, he ran a few more streets and found nothing. Returning to the tea house in frustration, Shui Sheng climbed to the highest point of the tea house. Looking down, you can have a clear view of East Street. Looking at the direction where Sui Sui disappeared, Shui Sheng was so anxious that his tears were like broken beads and his clothes were soaked. Time passed little by little, and there was still no sign of Sushui on the street. Just when he was blaming himself and despairing, he saw a man dressed as a guard appearing in the crowd. Wasn't that the man who took Sushui away? Taking a closer look, the man was walking towards the tea house holding Sushui in his hand. Sui Sui. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 48. Shui Sheng wiped away his tears and ran downstairs as fast as he could. Sui Sui. Be careful. Seeing Sushui's figure appearing in front of the tea house, Shui Sheng became anxious and missed the step when he went down the stairs. Sorry, my brother admitted the wrong person. I will apologize to you on his behalf. Xiang Song stepped forward and reached out to catch Shui Sheng who was about to fall. Shui Sheng didn't accept his kindness. After he stood firm, he glared angrily, your brother has gone too far. We are on the second floor. Is he blind? He kidnapped someone without saying a word. This is the same as robbing someone. What's the difference? It looked like an angry little lion. Sushui, are they bullying you? Shui Sheng glared at Xiang Song fiercely, stretched out his hand to pull Sushui over, touched Sushui's head, pinched Sushui's arms and legs, and inspected him from head to toe. Seeing that Sui Sui was not injured, Shui Sheng hugged Sui Sui tightly into his arms with fear, caressed Sui Sui's back and said, don't be afraid, let's go home right now. Don't cry for life, I'm fine. Seeing that Shui Sheng's clothes were soaked and the hand he held was still shaking, Sushui scolded Xiang Yang 800 times in his heart. When the onlookers saw that the child was sent back, They all blamed Xiang Song. Just say sorry and that's all? I've seen other brothers go crazy with anxiety. Have you ever done this? That's right. It's so unreasonable. You just kidnapped the child without asking. What's the difference between robbing someone? Everyone said something to each other, and Xiang Song was reprimanded to the point of shame. Shui was afraid that there would be more trouble, so he took Sushui to thank the enthusiastic uncles and aunties, and then walked back quickly. The two small figures quickly disappeared into the crowd. Xiang Song bowed his hands to the person who accused him. You are right to scold me. My brother admitted the wrong person and was indeed too reckless. I will go back and teach him a lesson. Xiang Song quickly got into the crowd and quickly left the scolding behind him. Soon, I saw a group of people, one large and one small, not far ahead, walking hand in hand towards Jingxiu Street. Shui Sheng only focused on talking to Sushui along the way and didn't notice anyone following him at all. Every year, it's my fault. Starting from tomorrow, I will practice harder and harder. No one will try to bully you in the future. Shui Sheng blamed himself very much. He sniffed and said in a loud voice. Yeah. You have to learn Kung Fu every year. Next time I see that big guy, I will kick his ass. By the way, where did they take you? Why did they send you back again? I don't believe what the big man's accomplice said. Sushui blinked his watery phoenix eyes and shook his head. I don't know where it is. It's not too far from the lion dance place. The wall is very high and the house is big. I saw a very handsome uncle and asked me who my mother was. I didn't tell him, and then he sent me back. Shui Sheng was confused after hearing this, and wondered in his heart, and you healed the sick and saved people, and it was too late for others to thank her. She must not be looking for trouble. Could it be that the big man really recognized the wrong person? When he reached the entrance of the alley, Sui Sui looked in the direction of Jishi Hall and said to Shui Sheng, don't talk about what happened today when you go back. If my mother finds out, she will be anxious. Okay, I won't tell you. Let's not sneak out anymore. When I grow up, we can go wherever we want every year. Shui Sheng said, lowering his head and asking Sushui, look at me going back like this, can senior brother see anything? Your eyes are as red as a rabbit. Uncle Nangong is not blind, so he can definitely see something fishy. Looking at Shui Sheng's red eyes, Sui Sui felt uncomfortable. I felt guilty, and I would never play again. I'll walk in with my head down when I come in soon. Shui Sheng secretly prayed in his heart that it would be Su Dong's mother who opened the door soon. The two of them knocked on the door, and sure enough, it was Su Dong's mother who opened the door. Hey! You two young masters, you are finally back. I heard that a child was kidnapped on the street. Didn't it scare you? Zheng opened the door and Shui Sheng lowered his head and rushed in. Sushui raised his head and gave Zheng a signature smile, and said in a sweet voice, I'm not scared. The two of them ran back to the backyard in a hurry. The palace. Xiao Jingzhao wrote 3 secret letters in a row, and Xiang Yang called several guards with strong martial arts skills. After the letter was sent away, Xiao Jingzhao let out a long breath. Seeing that his master was restless and frequently looking outside, Xiang Yang simply stood under the eaves outside the study. If I do this today, I don't dare to expect any reward. As long as the master is busy and forgets about the punishment, it will be Amitba. There was a slight sound of breaking through the air in his ears. He raised his head and jumped down from the wall. Why don't you come back through the gate? Xiang Yang came back to his senses after asking. Less than half an hour later, the concierge saw Xiang Song coming back from outside. It's not yet time for the porter to change duties, and the porter's guard has not seen Xiang Song before he goes out. He will definitely think that someone is pretending to be Xiang Song, and he will inevitably drag Xiang Song to see his master. Thinking of being pointed at and scolded by everyone, Xiang Song glared at Xiang Yang fiercely, just wait to receive the punishment. In one sentence, Xiang Yang was so frightened that he didn't even dare to enter the study to serve him. When Xiao Jingzhao saw Xiang Song coming back, he asked, "Where does he live?" "Master, good news, Sushui is definitely Miss Jiang's son. He went to Jingxiu Street and lived in a small courtyard in the alley behind the street." Xiao Jingzhao raised his eyebrows slightly. "Did you see clearly?" Xiang Song held his hand and said, "My subordinates saw it clearly." Yes, the two of them looked towards Jishi Hall when they entered the alley. "Congratulations, Master, there is a successor to the palace, and a piece of the princess's heart ailment can be gone." Outside the window, Xiang Yang was excited. He slapped his forehead suddenly. Why didn't he think of this? After hearing the conversation in the room, my anxious heart gradually calmed down. It's great that he's the master's seed, and he doesn't have to be punished. The eldest young master of the palace is ill and has not discussed the marriage for a long time. The master was often away from the palace when he was busy, so it was useless for the princess to be anxious. Although the eldest lady in the family has already grown her hair, she said she would wait until her brothers get married before discussing the marriage. That night, 3 black shadows swept out of the palace and went straight to the back of Jingxiu Street. In the garden, the shadows of the trees are swaying, and the flowers are fragrant on the branches. Under the moonlight, Shui Sheng danced with the wooden stick in his hand. "Shui Sheng, stop practicing and go back to your room to rest. Only with enough sleep can you grow taller." "And you, I'm not tired." Shui Sheng put down the wooden stick in his hand and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Sui Sui lay lazily on Zhang Shuyu's shoulder. He yawned and said in a soft voice, "Sheng Sheng, we won't practice today. Uncle Nangong said you can't become a fat man even with one bite. Let's take our time and don't be in a hurry." Zhang Shuyu rubbed her face against Sushui's face and chuckled. "You were always energetic in the past, why are you so sleepy today?" "Mom, I want to grow up to be a big man." Sushui wouldn't say that he had to go to bed early because he was frightened today. On a big tree outside the wall, several people heard what was said in the courtyard clearly. The moonlight fell on the 2 women, and the shadows on the ground were lengthened. When everyone in the garden returned to the house, Xiang Song lowered his voice and said, "Master, it's really Miss Zhang. What should I do?" You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 49. Xiao Jingzhao waved his hand and said, "Go back first. I'll talk to her another day." Now that the palace is full of crises, he is unwilling to let Sushui mother and son take risks with him. After he has settled the situation, it will not be too late to discuss with her to take Sushui back, but they have to be arranged separately. Xiao Jingzhao took the lead and flew down from the tree. Yes, how can our young master live outside? He must go back and be raised by the princess. Before Xiang Yang finished speaking, Xiang Song pulled him and flew down. If you don't speak, no one will think you are mute. Silently all the way, the 3 of them returned to the palace. That night, Xiao Jingzhao couldn't sleep, and the image of the mother and son always appeared in his mind. The next day, as soon as Zhang Shuyu arrived at Jishi Hall, a woman with a round figure and rich clothes came outside. "Miss Zhang, do you remember me? We met in the academy." Zhang Shuyu smiled slightly, raised her hand and made a gesture to sit down. The woman thanked her and sat down opposite Zhang Shuyu. "Now that you've figured it out, you still decide to let Master Ling lose weight?" Upon hearing Zhang Shuyu's straightforward words, the woman glanced at the maid standing beside her. She smiled brightly and said, "You see, Miss Zhang has such a good memory and she really remembers me. Our wife is a blessed person, of course the girl will remember it." "Zhang Shuyu, This maid is also very good at talking. Girl, my young master is busy with homework in the academy and cannot go to the hospital in person. Can you wait until the academy is on vacation and ask the girl to come to the house to prescribe a prescription? The maid spoke eloquently and explained the purpose of the master and servant's visit in one breath. Zhang Shuya shook her head. No, I already met Mr. Ling that day in the academy. He has a constitution of phlegm and dampness. I can give you the prescription to remove dampness right now. That day, when the old doctor next to her looked at the child, Zhang Shuya paid special attention to his tongue. The tongue is enlarged, with obvious tooth marks on both sides, and the coating is white and thick, which is a typical phlegm-damp constitution. The woman smiled warmly and said, "Then I'll help you, girl." Zhang Shuya wrote 2 prescriptions in total, one to remove moisture and the other to provide food intake for 3 meals a day. Zhang Shuya pointed at the list with food intake. You must eat according to the food intake listed here every day, but not more, otherwise Hua Tuo will not be able to lose weight in his next life. The maid showed the prescription to the woman. Miss Zhang, isn't this food intake a bit small? There are also these vegetables that children don't like to eat. The woman frowned as she read the words above, and the hesitation on her face was clearly visible. Thinking of her son's resolute attitude, the woman said again, "I'll take it back and try it." Her son liked eating meat and cake so much that the woman concluded that her son would not be able to endure it. Zhang Shuyu also gave some instructions, such as asking the children to exercise more. This time, Zhang Shuyu only charged the woman 1 tael of silver for consultation. When she returned to the courtyard to rest at noon, she lay halfly on the couch and thought hard. How difficult is it to lose weight? She has seen too many cases of failure. She needs to think about the recipe for weight loss tea. It is both convenient and easy to accept. In the south wing, Su Jinhui received the painting given to her by Zhang Shuyu. She took it out and read it every day. The writing and ink flow are like running water, the coloring is of appropriate shades and just right, and the lines are smooth. At first glance, it is written by everyone. Seeing that her daughter couldn't put it down, Aunt Su suggested, "Since you like it, why not frame it and hang it?" "Mom, when we have our own home, my daughter will frame it and hang it in Dad's study. It would be a pity to have such a good calligraphy hanging in the boudoir." Aunt Su smiled with satisfaction. Her daughter was sensible and filial. Thinking that her daughter's marriage had not yet been settled, Aunt Su sighed secretly. At this time, a figure passed by in the garden in the distance, and Aunt Su took a closer look. "It's Nangong Ziyu, such a fresh and handsome man with a beautiful face. Isn't this a man who is hard to find even with a lantern?" Aunt Su's eyebrows were filled with joy, and she turned to ask Su Hui, "Hui, what do you think of Mr. Nangong?" Su Hui didn't understand what her mother meant when she asked this question, so she told the truth. He robbed the rich and gave to the poor, and he lived up to his reputation as a master thief. His martial arts skills are still a bit lacking. If one day he encounters a tough challenge, he will have the skills of a 3-legged cat, in danger of being beaten to death. Hey! My silly girl, what do you think of him? Is he a good match? Su Hui walked to the door and looked into the garden, and saw Nangong Ziyu hugging Sushui and chasing butterflies in the garden, making Sushui giggle. Su Hui looked away, with a smile on her lips. This man sometimes gives people a bohemian feeling, but he is really good to Sui Sui, as long as my sister is willing. If he is a tolerant or well-behaved person, or a noble young master from a wealthy family, my sister is the mother of a child after all. Even if he likes her, he will still have concerns. Even if he is discerning, he knows my sister is no ordinary woman. Aunt Su was confused by Su Hui's words. Why didn't she think of this? Looking back on these days, didn't Mr. Nangong always revolve around the years? Looking up at the garden, Nangong Ziyu was having fun with Sushui. But no, if someone didn't know, they would definitely praise him as a loving father. Aunt Su put away her inappropriate thoughts and nodded. Mom, listen to Hui'er, as long as you are likes it, I think Sui Sui and he are very close to each other. When your father comes back, I will prepare a table of wine and food for you. Your dad wants to find out what he means. In the afternoon, a dark cloud surged up from the sky, like a black curtain, instantly covering the warm sun. Before dusk, it rained heavily, and pedestrians on the street took shelter under the eaves of the shops. 2/4 of an hour later, Zhang Xiu saw that the rain had subsided and the patients in the medical center had also left. Uncle Su, you go back to the house first, I will be back in a moment. Girl, are you waiting for the person who delivers the medicinal materials to arrive? If you is not here, Su Dong will come out to pick you up later. Zhang Xiu often leaves the hospital very late, and everyone is used to it. After Uncle Su and his son left, Zhang Xiu closed the door. She opened the medicine cabinet drawer and added herbs one by one. After finishing what she was doing, she walked towards the backyard and then ducked into the space. The green sweet potato seedlings are up to 4 feet long. If the weather is good, we can deliver another sweet potato seedling to the victims in the last few days of late spring. She used her mind to clear the space for the sweet potato seedlings, then walked towards the spiritual soil where the potatoes were planted and pulled up one. Oval potatoes rose in response. Zhang Xiu was surprised. The potatoes grew so fast in the spiritual soil. After finding some space and opening the sack to put the potatoes in, she suddenly remembered those seeds. She took out the vegetable planting diagram Su Hui drew for her and selected several common seeds. In order to replenish everyone's health, she took away only a few chickens in the space. After picking up a basket of eggs and leaving the space, it was already nightfall. There is no moon in the sky after the rain. Zhang Xiu was about to take out the fire seal when there was a knock on the door. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 50. With the light coming from the crack in the door, Zhang Xiu walked towards the door and threw the fire folder back into space. Su Dong, is that you? It's me. Su Dong has been busy all day, so I asked him to go back to the house to rest. Zhang Xiu opened the door and saw Nangong Ziyu standing outside the door holding an oil paper umbrella. The tall figure loomed over her petite figure. You came just in time. You will help me run outside the city tomorrow. Zhang Xiu took a step aside and explained the origins of potatoes, sweet potato seedlings and seeds in an understatement. Call me when the vendor delivers it next time. It's too tiring for a woman like you to do all this work. Zhang Xiu stepped out of the medical center in one step. No, just this time, I'll just watch from the side. I'm not tired. After locking the door, Nangong Ziyu opened the oil paper umbrella. Just as the oil paper umbrella was covering her head, Zhang Xiu quickened her steps and walked in front. When the lanterns came on, the lights in front of the wine shops, inns, and brothels were brightly lit, illuminating most of the street. Under the light, you can vaguely see the drizzle of rain. The rain has stopped a lot, so there's no need to hold an umbrella. Nangong Ziyu put the umbrella away with a hum sound. The two walked in tandem. Nangong Ziyu was speechless and said, I have already bathed Sushui, and now he and Shui Sheng are reading. Miss Zhang, he is growing up day by day, and one day he will live alone. Zhang Xiu turned back and smiled, and said nonchalantly, Nangong Ziyu, I didn't expect that you know how to raise children. You will definitely be a good father in the future. Nangong Ziyu. When I return to the capital, it won't be too late to give Sushui a separate house. Zhang Xiu had already thought about this, and she had enough money to buy a second-floor courtyard in the capital. The next day, the rain stopped. Nangong Ziyu personally drove the carriage and followed the delivery convoy. After leaving the city, two little heads were exposed from the carriage window. Wow! It smells so good. If you take a breath in Sushui, it really has the fragrance of grass and the smell of Lingyuan village. Shui Sheng lay on the window and shrugged his nose. Sui Sui also followed his example and sniffed, and his eyes lit up. It smells so good. It turns out what is written in the book is true. Not only the flowers have fragrance, but the grass also has fragrance. He learned to read so quickly that he could recite the 3-character sutra backwards and forwards. Zhang Shuya bought some travel notes and other books for him to read and play with. Nangang Ziyu saw that the 2 children were trapped in the courtyard all day, and Shui Sheng was studying hard and practicing kung fu. It was really hard, so he specially took them out of the city to have fun. As we approached the temporary government office, we saw old, weak, women and children queuing up to receive items. Hey! Why haven't we seen any young refugees today? Nangang Ziyu read it several times to make sure she saw it correctly. He jumped out of the carriage, opened the curtain and told Shui Sheng, "Wait for a while, senior brother, I will hand over the goods to the official and come back." After a while, Nangang Ziyu came back. There was a fishing net in his hand. "Uncle, are we going to catch fish?" Sushui's little head poked out from the car curtain. "Yes, let's go fishing. There is a small river beach in front of us. The villagers said that there are many fish and shrimps in it after it rains." "Sheng Sheng, I want to eat shrimp." "Okay, I'll catch more later." In the past, when he was in the village, Shui Sheng followed Sunan to the fields to catch fish and shrimps. Soon, the carriage came to the river. This is a section of river beach. The river water is very shallow and the water is a little turbid after the rain. The 3 of them took off their shoes and put them on the car's shaft. Nangang Ziyu helped Sushui roll up his trouser legs, while he lifted up his robe and tied it to his belt. After a while, 1 adult and 2 children were having a great time playing in the shallow water beach. Shui Sheng took the fishing net and pulled it in the water. When he lifted it up, he saw 2 small shrimps jumping alive in the fishing net. When Shui Sheng turned around, he saw Sushui touching his butt in the water. He reminded, "Sui Sui, stop touching it, or you may get your sleeves wet." Nangang Ziyu slipped Sushui's back collar with her handbag. "Are you ready?" "I found it. I'll take it back and give it to my mother to play with." Sushui straightened up and held a speckled stone in both hands. "You are so filial every year. This stone is beautiful. Your mother will definitely like it." Under Nangang Ziyu's indulgence, Sushui played with water splashes with her feet. The shallow river water was no higher than the knees of his short legs. Shui Sheng fished in the water for a long time and only caught half a bowl of shrimps. Sui Sui found a few more beautiful stones. Nangang Ziyu saw that Sui Sui was having a good time, and he couldn't hide the smile at the corner of his mouth. "Did you fall into the river?" As soon as the 3 of them entered the courtyard, Zhang Shuyu saw that they were holding shoes in their hands, their feet were bare, and their trouser legs and sleeves were half wet. "And you, look at the shrimps I caught." Shui Sheng raised the fishing net in his left hand. "Mom, I brought you some interesting rocks." As he spoke, Sushui was about to throw himself into his mother's arms. As soon as he stretched out his paws, he saw mud on the back of his hands, and he stopped again. Nangang Ziyu patted the hem of the robe in her hand. "There are several pieces here, which I have been looking for year after year." Nangang Ziyu's trouser legs were soaked, the hem of her robe was wrapped with a bulging lump, and she was holding it in her left hand. She was holding her shoes in her right hand. The elegant and suave image of the past was gone. Zhang Shuyu's forehead jumped when she saw that unattractive look. Zhang Shuyu gave way and said, "Go in and wash up quickly. Sushui is naughty and playful, so don't let him indulge you all the time." Helping him deliver things out of the city and taking care of his children, how could Zhang Shuyu fault him? Back in the yard, Kaiju helped to carry hot water, and Shui Sheng and Sushui washed and changed into clean clothes. "Sushui, I washed the stone for you." Nangang Ziyu's voice sounded outside. Sushui hurried out, "Uncle Nangang, Come in quickly. Zhang Shiyu looked out and saw Nangong Ziyu holding a shallow landscape basin in his hand. I'll go find a few more yellow stones another day, and I can make a small rockery. No, wait. Zhang Shiyu took the landscape basin and saw the wet stone emitting a hint of green light. What's wrong? Nangong Ziyu turned around and saw Zhang Shiyu staring at the stone in the basin with shining eyes. Mom, this stone glows, do you like it? Sushui pulled Zhang Shiyu's skirt and asked with a smile. I like it, son, you have found a treasure. Miss Zhang, are you dazzled? Why can't I see that the stone is a treasure? Zhang Shiyu turned the stone over to reveal the wettest bottom surface. Look, there is a green glow in the stone. If it is cut open, there may be emeralds inside. Nangong Ziyu stretched his neck to take a closer look, and it was indeed, and said in surprise, Sui Sui said that this is a colored stone. I only saw patterns on it, but I didn't expect it to be green. What surprised Nangong Ziyu even more was that Zhang Shiyu, a woman, seemed to know more than him. Mom, is this stone valuable? Your son will help you find it another day. Zhang Shiyu. My son's luck is too good. Qiuju. Did the young master's eyes have been blessed? Zhang Shiyu handed the stone and the landscape basin to Nangong Ziyu, picked up her son and kissed him. My son is great, Mom has seen jade being opened in Beijing, this stone should be able to open jade. Zhang Shiyu had watched a documentary about gambling on stones in her previous life. As the others were ecstatic, Su Hui came over with a smile. She waved the letter in her hand. Sister, your letter. Zhang Shiyu put away her smile. It's finally here. Warm Ti.